after you decided to start it, and right, who does that? I'm going to start a streaming service. I mean, that's amazing. But after you made the decision, talk about how you got it from that decision point to launch. What did that entail in terms of both, I guess from the financial side a little bit, as well as from the creating a content library side?
So initially, as I said, I had my online magazine, and one of my board members, the first thing I did was talk to one of my board members of my online magazine. He's a full stack developer, and I knew that to start a streaming service, I couldn't start it like my online magazine. It was a glorified WordPress site. You can't start a streaming service on WordPress. And so I went to him and said, okay, I have this idea for this platform. Technically, what can I do? And he actually didn't have a lot of ideas either, but he was explaining to me sort of how the tech side works. And I remember, when I started online magazine, I was telling people, there are books, how to start online magazine for dummies, and there's no book on, how to start how to start a streaming service, and Jeff Bezos isn't exactly giving out the playbook. So it was literally me doing all the research online initially, and then I applied for a competition because I knew I needed money. And so the first competition I applied for was in 2015, and I didn't win that one. And when I was a finalist, and I asked them, why didn't I win? They said they weren't sure about the future of streaming, which is crazy, because at the time there weren't a lot of streaming services. But in applying for another pitch competition, this one I was a finalist again, and this one was for $20,000, and I won that money. It was the end of 2015, and that was how I was able to use the money. That's it, $20,000 is how I started kweliTV. And with the help of my full stack developer friend who was a board member, he put me in contact with another developer who had a little bit more experience in the video streaming industry, and he built the beta by himself. I pretty much just gave him all the $20,000 to build the beta. And then for the content side, again, this was something totally out of my realm. My first thought was to reach out to film festivals. So I drafted this long letter, I'm DeShuna Spencer, I had this great idea for the streaming service, and let's build a partnership for content, because I knew a lot of filmmakers, once they finished their film festival run, a lot of times their films went nowhere, so I thought it would be a really great partnership with festivals. Of course, no one got back to me. Who am I? They didn't know me from Adam, and so I was like, okay, this route won't work. So I ended up just built a spreadsheet of all the festivals that had really amazing content, and I just started to reach out to filmmakers. Like any good journalist, you can find people if you really do a really good Google search. And I would sometimes find these films I loved. I'd spend an hour looking for the filmmaker, digging through Google. And my initial goal was to have 50 filmmakers to launch. We had 37, but I think 37 filmmakers who didn't know me from Adam was great. Yeah. I spoke to 200. My goal was to just talk to filmmakers and say, I'm building this for you. If you were a part of this, what do you want to see us do? And I think a lot of times when people build things selfishly, I want to see this content as well. Yeah, but this is also about the filmmaker. This is about them having a good experience and what they want to see and how they want to contribute to this thing I'm building for them as well as for our consumer. And so I spent a lot of time talking to filmmakers. I spent a lot of time talking to potential customers about what they wanted to see and started to build the beta from there. It's interesting because I wanted to build the most perfect streaming service. I didn't know anything about an MVP. We all know what MVPs are in the room, I'm sure, right? MVPs. Some people don't know, but I didn't know anything about an MVP or beta. Our customers didn't know anything about MVP or beta. And when we launched the platform, the person who I hired, he skipped town. He was based in DC, and it was about 90% done. And he just had a baby, so I gave him all the money because I wanted to make sure he was okay for this, his baby was coming. But he didn't finish, and I never heard from him ever again. And so I was really devastated. The site wasn't perfect. It could play movies, and it could take people's money. That was about the gist of it. Everything else didn't work that well. And I remember reading a quote from the co-founder of LinkedIn saying, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you started too late. So I kind of took that quote and ran with it. And I was super embarrassed by it. It was so bad that if someone had to reset their password, I had to literally go in personally and reset it and email them their password. That's horrible.
Right.
And that's how we started. We just started with the not so great platform, but the goal was to prove the concept, and that's what we did.